I was sipping lukewarm coffee on a Tuesday morning when I heard the familiar crunch of white sandals on gravel. I didn't have to look up, I already knew it was her. Karen Whitmore. HOA president. Lawn color enthusiast. Enforcer of nonsense. Her shadow slid across my porch like a storm cloud, and then, there it was, the click of her phone camera. I looked up. You know, Karen, some people knock. Her lips curled into the kind of smile that never quite reached the eyes. Oh, I didn't want to disturb you. Just documenting another violation, dear. Another? She pointed to the sticker on my front window, laminated and affixed with heavy-duty adhesive. Bright orange. Ugly, maybe. But necessary. It read in bold black font, "Notice, protected under temporary civil order. No entry without written permission." Karen scoffed like it was a poster for a garage band. "These things ruin the visual harmony of the cul-de-sac," she sniffed. "You'll need to remove them before the weekend. We have our annual garden showcase." I stared at her, stunned for a moment. "Karen, that sticker is court-ordered." She raised a perfectly plucked eyebrow. "Court? For what, dear? Overgrown grass? Unapproved mulch?" Her smirk widened. "You young people love exaggerating everything. Now, here's the thing, I'm not usually one for drama. I don't get into shouting matches on Facebook or slap passive-aggressive post-its on garbage cans. But Karen? She was a master at dragging people into her chaos, like a black hole of floral blouses and bylaws. She'd already tried fining me for parking a commercial vehicle when I had groceries delivered. Then she sent a letter warning me that my security camera was pointed aggressively. Now she was after my sticker, the same one a judge had issued after my ex-landlord tried to forcefully evict me from my own home by pretending it was unoccupied. This wasn't just an ugly sticker. It was protection. From him. From people like Karen. "Look," I said, keeping my voice calm, "this sticker stays. It's not up for debate." Karen tilted her head. "Well, I already peeled off the one on the back window. It was half unpeeled anyway, looked sloppy." "You're welcome." My stomach dropped. "You what?" I bolted up from the porch swing so fast I nearly spilled my coffee. "You peeled off a court-ordered civil protection notice?" Karen blinked. "Oh honey. It's not like it was laminated in gold." I felt my throat go dry. This wasn't just HOA drama anymore. This was tampering. And what Karen didn't know, what she hadn't bothered to learn, was that those stickers weren't just warnings to nosy neighbors. They were documented, registered, monitored. Part of an active civil injunction. Her little act of community beautification had just become evidence. But I didn't tell her that. Not yet. Because this wasn't the first time Karen had crossed a line. And now, I realized, it was time to stop playing nice. She wanted a war over aesthetic harmony. She was about to learn the difference between HOA rules and real legal consequences. If Karen had even an ounce of hesitation about peeling off a court-ordered sticker, she didn't show it. In fact, she seemed more emboldened than ever. That afternoon, she posted a photo of my front lawn in the community Facebook group under the heading, "Visual Blight on Azalea Drive, Should We Vote for Removal?" It was a picture of my house. My house. I sat on the couch with my laptop open, staring at the comment thread beneath it. There were a few dissenters, thank God. Margie from 2 streets over wrote, "I think it's illegal to post someone's property like this," and someone else responded, "Didn't the city post that sticker?" But those voices were drowned out by the usual suspects, HOA loyalists with names like Lorna, Ned, and the real Steve. And Karen, of course, replying to each comment like she was running a campaign. I clicked download on every one of her replies. By the time Friday arrived, I had something better than anger, I had documentation. See, when that sticker went up last month, it wasn't random. I had gone through the full process after my ex, Todd, tried to fake a utility shutoff and claim abandonment. I took him to court, got a temporary protection order, and with it, legal postings, one on each entrance, clearly labeled with a QR code that linked to the filing in the civil court database. Tampering with those notices? That was a crime. But Karen didn't just tamper, she bragged about it online. Posted before and after shots like she was running some DIY curb appeal show. So, I made some calls. The sheriff's office was already aware of the order. They'd been the ones to serve it. When I explained what Karen had done, they told me to email over the photos and posts, and that someone would follow up. But I wanted more than a follow-up. I wanted accountability, public, undeniable. And that's when the timing hit me like a divine gift from the HOA gods. Tomorrow was the Oakwood Estates Garden Showcase, Karen's crown jewel event. I didn't usually go to HOA events. I wasn't a lemonade table kind of person. But this year, I RSVP'd with an enthusiastic attending and circled the date like it was prom night. I wore a sleeveless dress, blue, floral, ironic, and arrived right as the first tour group gathered around Karen's house. She stood in her driveway holding a clipboard, her wide-brimmed sun hat tilted just so, her voice projecting like a seasoned politician. And here we see the wisteria pergola, trained over 17 months using a trellis system I personally designed, she announced, gesturing to a vine-covered structure. The HOA guidelines encourage sustainability and elegance. She hadn't noticed me yet. I waited, arms crossed, until the next group started their slow shuffle up the cul-de-sac. Then I saw them, two plainclothes sheriff's deputies in khakis and polos, strolling right past the lemonade stand and stopping at the HOA welcome booth. One of them showed his badge to a volunteer, pointed toward Karen, and began walking in her direction. My heart hammered. My mouth went dry. This was really happening. Karen spotted them mid-sentence and actually beamed, probably assuming they were there for neighborhood security. She walked up, stuck out her hand, and began introducing herself. Then they handed her the envelope. The look on her face shifted in 3 distinct stages: confusion, irritation, and then dawning horror. Her hand dropped. Her voice faltered. One of the deputies pulled a phone from his back pocket and scrolled to an image. I recognized it instantly. It was the sticker from my back window. The one she'd removed. Karen's voice cracked through the neighborhood like glass underfoot. This is ridiculous. I was beautifying the community. That sticker was a disgrace to our aesthetic profile. She was trying to argue. Loudly. Passionately. With 2 officers who didn't care about aesthetic profiles. People were starting to gather. Camera phones came out. A woman in yoga pants whispered, "Is this about the sticker thing?" Another man muttered, "I told you she takes it too far." And then, almost mercifully, the deputy gestured for Karen to calm down and walked her a few feet away for privacy. But it was too late. The moment was etched into every phone camera present. Karen Whitmore, Queen of the Roses, being served for sticker tampering. The irony was delicious. I stayed until the crowd started to thin. Then, with a fresh lemonade in hand, I walked past Karen's prized rose hedge, smiled at her tight-lipped stare, and said, "Great turnout. Your flowers look especially lawful this year." She didn't reply. She just gripped her clipboard like she wanted to snap it in half. And in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't just about a sticker anymore. This was about power. Control. And Karen had just learned that sometimes, the person you try to steamroll might just steamroll back, with legal paperwork and a smile. The Monday after the garden showcase was strangely quiet. Karen hadn't posted on the neighborhood Facebook group in 48 hours. That alone was historic. Normally she posted hourly updates on dog waste policy or parking violations that threaten the community aesthetic. But now? Radio silence. I thought maybe she'd gotten the message. Maybe being served in front of half the subdivision would humble her. But that was underestimating Karen. By Tuesday morning, a new email blast landed in our inboxes. Subject line, Neighborhood Decency Initiative, Urgent Community Vote Required. It was a digital petition asking residents to authorize the removal of all unsightly and non-compliant markings and decals from visible public-facing surfaces. In other words, another attempt to ban the stickers. Except now she was trying to get the neighborhood to do her dirty work. The language in the email was subtle. Manipulative. Preserve our visual serenity, defend property values, a stand against visual pollution. She didn't mention me or the court order directly, but we all knew. And then came the kicker: any resident with stickers, warning signs, or decals not previously approved under Section 3.2 of the HOA Aesthetic Compliance Guidelines may be subject to citation, daily fines, or temporary suspension of neighborhood privileges, event access, pool use, etc. I reread that sentence 3 times. She was threatening to ban me from the pool because of a court-mandated legal notice? I laughed. But it was the kind of laugh that feels sharp in your chest. Because beneath the absurdity, there was something darker. This wasn't just about rules. This was retaliation. Karen couldn't strike through the court, so she was going to weaponize the HOA. Again. So I started filming. Not just Karen, but everything. My stickers. My home. My mailbox. Every interaction, every casual walk-by glance that lingered too long. I mounted a dash cam on my car and installed an additional Ring camera near the back gate, right where Karen had previously removed the sticker. Because I had a feeling things were about to escalate. And I was right. On Wednesday, I came home from work to find a folded piece of paper stuffed in my storm door. Not HOA letterhead. No envelope. Just a plain white sheet, typed in Comic Sans of all fonts. It read: "You're ruining this neighborhood with your stubbornness. Those stickers make us look like a crime zone. You want to bring your drama into our safe space? Fine. But don't be surprised when people stop protecting you." No signature. No return address. Just that subtle hint of menace, the kind that makes your skin crawl. I held it with tongs and slid it into a Ziploc bag. Called the deputy assigned to my civil order and told him what happened. He said to keep documenting and that, yes, if this continued, it could become a criminal harassment case. I wanted to believe this was just one bitter woman lashing out. But deep down, I knew better. The HOA wasn't just a committee. It was a web. And Karen had been spinning it for years. So I made my move. That Friday, I filed a formal complaint with the County Civil Oversight Board citing HOA misconduct, abuse of authority, and retaliation against a protected civil order. But I didn't stop there. I went to next door. Yes, that digital hornet's nest of lost cats, lawnmower recommendations, and passive-aggressive neighborhood shade. I posted the full timeline. Calm. Factual. Unapologetically direct. I blurred Karen's name in screenshots, barely, but let the story speak for itself. I didn't ask for outrage. I didn't rally a mob. I simply titled it, "When HOA Power Becomes Personal, a Story About Stickers, Court Orders, and the Right to Feel Safe at Home." Within 2 hours, the post had 113 comments. By the next morning, it had 300. And what stunned me most were the private messages. Messages from other residents. From former residents. People who had been fined for holiday lights, warned about flower beds, accused of noise violations for laughing too loud during dinner on their patio. One woman, Jenna, messaged, "Karen threatened to evict me because my baby's toy car was visible from the street. She told me it was a tripping hazard to the aesthetic experience." I thought I was going crazy. Thank you. Another, "She tried to shut down my yard sale because the tablecloths were plastic. Called it non-elevated material use." What the hell is that? By Sunday, someone had started a petition, not Karen's this time. A real one. Titled, "Vote of No Confidence in HOA Leadership." It needed 35 signatures to force a special board vote. By Monday night, it had 78. And Karen? She finally posted again. A single sentence on Facebook, typed in all caps. Defamation is a serious offense. Legal counsel has been contacted. But it was too late. Because the camera footage I'd collected, the sticker removal, the paper in the door, even Karen filming my house from her car that one weird night, was now part of a digital drive marked Oakwood HOA Accountability, 2025. My attorney had a copy. So did the sheriff. So did the civil court clerk. And all of it stemmed from one sticker she couldn't leave alone. The meeting was scheduled for 7 p.m. sharp, but by 6:15, folding chairs were already being dragged across the community center's tile floor like a prelude to chaos. People didn't just trickle in, they flooded. Retirees in sun hats. Parents clutching juice boxes and folding fans. College kids home for the summer who couldn't believe their parents were finally rebelling against the HOA they'd grown up under. Even the mail carrier, off duty, I think, stood in the back, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Karen was nowhere to be seen. Not at first. The vice president of the board, a quiet man named Greg who usually stayed in Karen's shadow, nervously adjusted his tie at the podium. We've, convened tonight to address a petition requesting a vote of no confidence in current HOA leadership, specifically the president. The room buzzed like a disturbed hive. Before Greg could finish the sentence, the doors flung open. And in walked Karen Whitmore. It was almost cinematic. White blazer. Glossy folder under her arm. A look that tried to say unbothered, but didn't quite hide the twitch in her jaw. She marched straight to the front, didn't acknowledge Greg, and took the mic like it was a hostage situation. "I'd like to make a statement before this circus continues," she began, voice clipped and tight. "There has been a coordinated smear campaign against my office. False accusations. Misunderstood policies. A personal vendetta wrapped in misleading narratives. But I'm here to set the record straight." She held up a printed version of my Nextdoor post like it was evidence in a courtroom. "This document," she said, "has been weaponized to defame me. What it fails to mention is that the stickers in question are not aesthetically compliant with Oakwood Estates standards. I was doing my duty." Someone from the crowd, maybe Mrs. Delgado, who'd been hit with a $75 fine for having a bird feeder, shouted, "It was a court order, Karen." Karen's voice spiked. "And court orders can be appealed if they threaten the visual character of a neighborhood." The room erupted. Laughter. Shouting. Someone coughed just to punctuate the absurdity. Greg tried to regain control. Let's please allow everyone to speak. In order. We've had several residents sign up to make public comment. And wouldn't you know it? I was first. I stood, holding only one thing, a USB drive. I stepped up to the front and didn't speak right away. I just handed it to Greg, who plugged it into the projector. The screen behind us flickered to life. Clip 1, Karen on my back patio, in full daylight, peeling the sticker off the window. Pausing to adjust her sunglasses. Smiling. Clip 2, her Facebook post with the caption, "Ugly sticker removed. You're welcome, neighbors." Clip 3, her car, parked across from my house, window halfway down, phone aimed directly at my door. The room went silent. I turned to face the crowd. "I didn't want to make this public," I said. I really didn't. But when someone removes a court-ordered protective notice, posts about it online, and then tries to get the neighborhood to punish me for it, that's not a leadership issue. That's harassment. Karen opened her mouth to object, but Greg raised a hand. "Mrs. Whitmore," he said, for the first time not calling her Madam President, "please let the speaker finish." I continued. "I didn't make those stickers. I didn't choose their color or design. But they're not decoration, they're a warning. A legal one. Because someone I trusted tried to take my home from me. And now, someone else is trying to do the same thing under the banner of neighborhood standards." I let that hang in the air. Then I looked directly at Karen. "You've used your title as a shield and a sword. But tonight, that ends." Applause broke out. Scattered at first, then full and roaring. Karen's mouth tightened to a line so thin it practically disappeared. Greg turned back to the mic. Will now take a formal vote from attending residents. As per Article 6 of the HOA Charter, a majority present may vote to initiate a board election, provided the reason constitutes abuse of authority or misconduct. A chorus of hands shot up. People were ready. But then, just as the vote tally began, something happened that even I didn't expect. A man in a gray blazer walked up from the back. He wasn't a resident. Nobody recognized him. He introduced himself as Mark Riley, a legal analyst from the county civil court. "I apologize for the interruption," he said, calm but loud enough to cut through the room. "But I've been asked to deliver a clarification on behalf of the court regarding the incident involving court-ordered protective stickers." Karen visibly tensed. Mr. Riley pulled a single sheet of paper from his briefcase. "Mrs. Whitmore's removal of these postings constitutes interference with a civil protection order. As such, a formal review has been initiated, and she may be temporarily suspended from all HOA leadership activity pending the outcome." Gasps. And just like that, Karen sat down. Hard. Like her bones couldn't hold her up anymore. Greg didn't skip a beat. "In light of that, we'll proceed with the vote on board reorganization. All in favor?" Hands shot up like popcorn kernels in hot oil. The tally wasn't even close. Over 90% in favor. Karen wasn't just out. She was officially suspended pending investigation. And for the first time since moving to Oakwood Estates, I walked out of the community center not feeling like a target. I felt seen. Heard. Safe. I thought that would be the end of it. Karen's suspension, the vote of no confidence, and the unmistakable ripple it sent through Oakwood Estates. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. No barking texts from the HOA. No passive-aggressive emails. No violation notices tucked under my doormat like rejection letters from a particularly bitter university. But like any wildfire, Karen's influence didn't vanish, it smoldered. She stopped walking her dog down my street. Stopped showing up at committee meetings. Rumor had it she was taking a spiritual sabbatical. More likely, she was hiding until the heat died down. Still, a week later, I spotted her Lexus parked at the edge of the cul-de-sac. She sat behind the wheel with the windows up, sunglasses on, watching. Not moving. I didn't wave. Didn't give her the satisfaction of a reaction. But I went inside and reviewed the footage on my cameras anyway. And sure enough, there she was, parked there for exactly 11 minutes, never getting out, never speaking to anyone. Just watching. I forwarded the clip to the deputy assigned to my case. He called back and said it wasn't technically a violation, but if it continued, we could revisit the matter under pattern of presence. The phrase alone gave me chills. But Karen never came back after that. Not physically, anyway. Because the real legacy she left behind wasn't her presence. It was what she had built, and what we were left to dismantle. Over the next month, Greg, now interim HOA president, discovered just how many of the policies Karen had enforced weren't legally binding. Half the guidelines she'd cited over the years were entirely fabricated. There was no clause banning political bumper stickers, no rule about curtain colors, no finable offense for aggressive landscaping, whatever that meant. One by one, the new board members, freshly elected, most of them former victims of Karen's reign, began unwinding her web. They reversed over a dozen fines. Reinstated pool access to families who'd been banned over noise complaints. And most importantly, they clarified the language around legal notices and protected statuses. Court-ordered postings, they declared, shall not be subject to aesthetic review or community approval under any circumstances. It was on page 1 of the new rulebook. I laminated a copy and taped it beside the sticker Karen had tried to rip off. Call it poetic. But here's the part one didn't expect, the part that truly shocked me. One evening, just after sunset, I heard a knock at the door. Not a pounding. Not an angry rattle. Just a simple, hesitant knock. I checked the cameras. It was a woman in a dark sweater, shoulders hunched. Took me a moment to recognize her. Karen. She wasn't holding a clipboard. She didn't have her sunglasses or her familiar scowl. I opened the door slowly, leaving the chain latched. Yes? She didn't meet my eyes at first. I know I shouldn't be here. I said nothing. She continued. I wanted to say I was wrong. About the sticker. About you. Her voice cracked slightly. I let a lot of things get personal. Still, I said nothing. She looked up then, and for the first time since I met her, she didn't look powerful or smug. She looked tired. Fragile, almost. I didn't understand what that sticker really meant. I thought, she trailed off, then forced a breath. I thought keeping things looking perfect meant everything was fine. I was wrong. About a lot. I closed the door without replying. Not out of anger. Out of peace. Because that was the real ending. Not the vote. Not the public fallout. Not even the sticker. It was her standing at my door, finally realizing that control isn't the same as safety. That aesthetics don't equal justice. That sometimes the ugliest thing on the block is the person pretending to clean it up. I left the sticker up long after the court order expired. Because it wasn't just a warning anymore. It was a symbol. Of resilience. Of boundaries. Of what happens when you push someone too far, and they push back with every ounce of truth they have. So to the next Karen who thinks a laminated sign is an invitation to meddle, let me offer this reminder. Ugly to you. Essential to me. And this time, the law's on my side.